Could you tell us how many times have you attended this sports?
Okay, let me say up to the time that I left, it was on a yearly basis from 2004 up to 2008. Then 2009 there was a break, like a pause. So 2009 we didn't have it, and I left 2009. So 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8 for 5 years I was part of the program, either as presenter or as one of the coordinators and organizers. So I've been part of it.
Oh, okay. So Andy, could you kindly introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing and how you're involved with these sports in Africa and the global?
As you said, my name is Andy Ofori-Birikorang. I'm from Ghana. Currently, I'm a lecturer and the acting head of the Department of the Communication and Media Studies. I came to OU in 2003-2004 academic year to study MA International Affairs with a focus on African Studies. That very year when we came, Steve Howard was not the head of the department. He had gone on sabbatical. So Professor Diane Shikawe was the acting director of African Studies. And I would say that she was the one, because Howard was the one who got us involved in a lot of the activities. That was in 2003-2004, that was the very year that the African Sports Conference initiative came, and Diane, I want to call her that way, pushed us, all of us, to get involved. And ever since that time, every year when we came, we were just GA, graduate assistants, helping Diane and Gerald and others to organize it. But they made us have a sense of ownership. It's not like we are just helping, it's not like it belongs to us. It's an African thing, it's about African sports, and it belongs to the African Studies Department. We were made to think that way, and therefore we hugely got involved in every process. Now, ever since that time, because we had a sense of ownership from the beginning, we began to realize that anytime that that activity was going to be organized, the event was going to we owned it, and therefore we got involved. So every year, Gerald, myself, Winsome, and later Bossa came, and Papa came, and Ernest and Basasana. These are some of the people we started with. So that's what I know. And for the first 5 years, every year, we had been organizing the Sports in Africa conference. There was a time that I was doing what you guys are doing now. I was behind the screen, recording, doing interviews for those who had come. So that's how far I've been involved. Now, as I said, I'm back home. I went back 4 years ago, and for this event, because it's a dual thing, first there's the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the African Studies program, and Steve Howard extended an invitation to me as an alumnus and part of the leadership in the last 10 years to come and take part. Then I also realized that the African Sports Conference was also going to come up. So I said, okay, why don't I present a paper? And because there was something that I was working on in terms of soccer and the viewing of television in public places, and which fitted right into the theme for this program. And I took that opportunity. So now it's like I'm killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Good to be back home after 4 years, but I love Athens. And there's that idea that you can never leave Athens without wishing that you were back. And I felt it all the time.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you on that. So having attended the conferences for at least more than 5 years, what's been your experience of sports in Ghana?
Okay, the first thing is I realized that there's not so much going to researching sports, and therefore when you come to the activities or the events or the conferences, you always get a sense of what we should do about doing more studies on sports in Ghana. But at the same time, at every conference, there has been somebody who is presenting on Ghana. Even though I'm saying that there's not be a lot, every conference that we had, there were people, there are times that I pick a lot of people from the airport who said, they had been to Ghana, they were studying Ghana, to the extent that you might think that most of the soft conferences had focused on countries in the west and the east of Africa in terms of sports. But I can't say what kind of influence the research have had on the events in Ghana. But we need to do a lot more in terms of study, because there are so many things that are happening in the continent and in Ghana, and we have also focused so much on soccer. You know, other sports we are not looking at athletics, which is dying, virtually dying. In Ghana, for instance, virtually dying. I think in Africa, it's only in East Africa that is booming. You know, and we need to redirect our studies and our research eyes towards these arenas. Otherwise, you know, even if you look at today, almost everything is about soccer. You know, it's one lady Sarah, who presents and talks about rugby and boxing, but almost everybody is talking about soccer. Even the book about identity and nation is about football. You know, the book that was launched, that was shown, is about football. And that's what I see is a problem, that we are so much focusing on soccer. Because we have the passion for it, because the other sporting activities are not more developed, but also because we have neglected them. Because when I was growing up as a kid, I realized athletics was very powerful in Ghana, comparable to soccer. But now it's not there. So that's what I see, that maybe I'm there. If I'm going to look at something else, I can also redirect my research agenda towards maybe the less developed discipline. Not less, but in terms of the fact that it's not there. It was there, but it's kind of waned over the years. So we can do that. But years ago when we started, we were also thinking about the sustainability of the sports conference, in terms of funding, in terms of who is there. And Gerard has been the architect. So the question we also ask, what happens if Gerard is no more there? That's one. The second question is, are we always going to organize the conference on Africa in the US? When do we take it back home and say, okay, this year we are moving the conference on sports in Africa to Africa? You know, those are issues that when we're here, we're asking, but it's all about funding, because if you want to go back to Africa, then you have to think about how you're going to fund the conference. And those are some of the things that come up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andy, you presented a paper you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Could you briefly tell us what the paper was about?
Yeah, okay. I presented a paper on soccer and public viewing of television. Through the theories of popular culture, identity construction, and gender politics. And the paper is just about how soccer has moved into a transition. Let me use the word that one of the presenters has transitioned into, the love for soccer has transitioned into love for European soccer. And that kind of love for European soccer has created new spaces where people, for any reason, will do everything to go and watch those matches. And with it has come the phenomenon of people watching these matches on giant screens in free access open spaces. And so when I saw that phenomenon happening, I was asking, so why are people here? And then I got involved initially. I was also going there because of the communal sense of how the whole thing. But a few visits informed me that it's not just about soccer. There are other things that are happening there. So I said, once we have these in several locations, now let me take my time, and this time be a professional stranger, you know, instead of being the normal stranger, professional stranger, because now I'm going to be there as a professional, watch what is happening, collect data, and investigate the phenomenon. And that's what I did. And I realized that so many things go on there. As I said, there's the issue of soccer viewing itself, but people go there, they talk about jobs, they talk about politics, they talk about women, they talk about employment, they talk about several issues. Then people also engage in a lot of activities. People go there to sell. People don't go there so that they can have insights into what is happening in the society, because they believe that at that arena, several issues come up, different ideas come. Rather than staying at home alone and watching the television, just focusing on TV, here you can perform multiple tasks. You can watch TV, you can engage in other discourses, you can talk about other issues. So that thing was happening. Then for me, what was even more significant was how issues of women and gender became another issue there. Because personally, I'm an advocate of gender issues, women's issues. And wherever there's an arena where women are supposed to participate, but they have been excluded because of masculine tendencies, I want to find out why, so that if we can mainstream women into. So that issue also came up as to how the politics of exclusivity happen in that environment, and how women are also trying, some individual women and groups are also trying to subvert these masculine tendencies so that they can be part and perform in that arena. So the whole thing was to look at what happens when people go out at night to watch TV in public places, and what kind of activities go on there. And so for 8 months that, almost 10 months that I did this study, I realized that it's not just about TV. It's a place where there's a communal sense of living comes. It's a place where we can purge ourselves of the social stress. It's a place where we can talk about employment, where we can talk about politics, where we can form identities. But more importantly, it's a place where European soccer gets its boost and thrives. And that is where I believe that it's a bit of the danger to look out for, because that arena has never been used to showcase local soccer. It's always European soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in line with that then, how do you feel about what such a conference would impact, or what impact does such a conference have?
The first thing is that at the end of my presentation, I said I encourage everybody to go and look out there and see what they can, whether they can do further studies, on that, whether in their own local environments, in other African countries, this phenomenon is happening and what can be done. So at such conference, you expose participants to these ideas, these issues. And then we all go ahead and interrogate the issues from the perspective of how we're looking at it. Now, it's a qualitative ethnographic study, and therefore I'm looking at it from my environment. Maybe in other places, other things are happening aside what we see there. In other places, maybe something is going on. So when you come to you open people's mind. Like, I've also learned about even my own country, because others came and I said, I'm looking at it, I said, oh wow, okay, I know this is happening. I didn't look at it from this perspective. So I go back and I'm saying, okay, maybe I can also approach it from this angle. So the conference actually highlights, it puts the issue on the platform and agenda, and participants can go back and discuss the idea with their issues. I also take feedback. Unfortunately, we didn't have time for questions. Now, we also take the chance to take feedback to see what we can do with that, and especially find out how this phenomenon is informing, one, the socio-cultural discourse, and the things we do, and the economy itself, because there's a capitalist aspect of it. The idea of DSTV and the idea of linking the public view of television to the sale of products, the sale of goods. Find out what kind of goods are being sold. Now, to find out what kind of personalities are even screened for us to watch out. What kind of role models are we asked to, look up to on screen. There are so many things that are happening, and those things, to a large extent, can inform our identity and can also tell us what you have to do as a country in order to move the country, the nation forward.
Okay, thank you, Andy. So, just a reflection now. You've been participating in this Sports in Africa and the Global South, both as a presenter and a participant, like you have done. Yeah. So what's been your most memorable experience in these conferences? Okay,
ironically, it's not this one. I think it's 2006, the last but one, 2006. It's memorable because of the personality who came. Manito Bol, who hailed from Sudan, one of the tallest guys, 7'5", was the keynote speaker. Incidentally, he is not an elite intellectual. In fact, he's not. He wasn't an intellectual. He was popular because of the role, because he was a basketball player who had been recruited from Sudan to come and play. And in the 80s, he made so much money. By the time we picked him as a keynote speaker for the 2006 or 7 one, he was kind of down. He didn't have the money, so he was going around. And it was memorable because I was asked to go and pick him from the airport for the conference. So I go to the airport and they say, okay, so you're going to pick Manito Bol? And I say, okay, how do I know him? So, okay, you don't worry. He's tall. When he drops out, when he lands, you see him. So I go with my van from the transition services. I'm waiting. And then I'm just there. Then the plane arrives. I see the driver. Okay, good. Then this guy steps out. Then everybody said, "Oh my God! This guy is just about hitting the ceiling." And I said, "Wow." So I go to him and I said, "Hi, Manite." He said, "Hi." And he just looking down, I'm looking. And you know my height, I see myself as a tall guy. And I raised my hand, "Hi, Manite." He said, "Hi." He said, "I'm supposed to pick you." I said, "Okay, what's your name?" I said, "Andy." "Manite." Then he just picking his size. "Okay, let me pick them for you." So we identified them. Then other guys, somebody asked me, how tall is he? Then he said, "Ask me." Why is asking him? He doesn't know. Ask me. So everything we pick him, and then he said, "Where is the car?" He said, "Oh my God, I can't fit into this car. I can't." He said, that's the van that I was. I can't. So we had to remove the back seat, the front one, take it out so that he can have enough leg room. And he had to, shift like this and sit that way. It was memorable, honestly. And driving with him, we started talking about Africa. He had been to several places in Africa. He was a friend of Uganda Museveni, Yoweri Museveni. He was a friend of John Garang. So we had a nice chat about Africa all the way to Athens. And then we came, and during the night he was there. We took pictures. He gave us. So to me, that was the most memorable. I will never forget. So when I heard that he passed on, I was so sad. I was in Africa when I heard the Manute ball was gone, and I was very, very sad because. And I came and I saw some pictures there with. If you have seen, there's some with Winsome, just like up to the knee. And so that to me was the most memorable moment because we had been there, but this one was personally, it had a personal effect on me. So I love that one.
Okay, yeah, that's quite sad actually. So now the theme for this year's Sports in Africa and the Global South Conference is what's the way forward?
Yeah, exactly.
What's next? So what's your expectation or recommendation going forward?
Okay, it's true. I look at the team and I said, okay, this question, as I said, came up long ago. One, in terms of sustainability, how are you going to sustain it? Because I know that funding has dwindled over the years. And the truth is that even this year, attendance has not been so like the previous years. When we were there, we had concurrent sessions, but now we have hard sessions, we have panel discussions. When we're here, we had sessions throughout. And so I've seen it happening. For me, going back home in Africa, I always stress that one of these days, this thing can happen on the African continent, and people can have the funding to come and be part of it. And I also think that the problem that we have had is getting somebody to take over. Gerard cannot do it all the time, and therefore that's the issue. We need to, ask whether OU wants to take this as its baby and groom it. And I know the African studies have been part of it. Otherwise, it's so difficult because once the whole thing's about funding, it has to be institutionalized in a certain organ. If the sports administration wants to take it, fine. If the African Studies program wants to take it, fine. But if it's embodied in a personality like Gerard, and all those people who are here, Gerard, Howard, Papa, Winsome, Bose, are the same people who have been organizing this thing for the past, from around 2005, 2006, 2007. So the issue is there. I don't know. I don't have any clear idea what is happening. All that I can say is that we need somebody to take it into its bosom, whether it's the Centers for International Studies, so that it becomes something that's a part of their program. When they are applying for funding, they look at it as something that they will do. Otherwise, I don't see how we're going to sustain it. The other issue is discuss with other institutions in Africa to see whether we can have one or two. For example, Ghana has a sports college. We can link up with the sports college and just decide to talk about it. I think that other countries may have it. So the linkages with Africa have been somehow lacking, and I think we need to do that. If in the US we can get other institutions to take it up, fine. Malta has been part of this program for years. They have to sit down and find out the way forward. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. I don't have any clear idea of what you have to do. The only thing I know is that somebody needs to take it up and see it as a useful tool to project and discuss Africa.
Okay, thank you very much. So for the final closing, I'd like to open the forum for any final thoughts you have on either the conference or sports in Africa and the Global South in general.
Okay, first of all, let me take this opportunity to say that I'm so grateful for Gerald and Dr. Howard and all the coordinators for at least letting it happen this year. The year that I left here, it didn't happen. Through this opportunity, I've been able to come here, I've been able to take part, I've been able to do two things at the same time. And I think that we need to, like you said, find out how we're going to do it. Now, once you say it's Global South, we need to also do the South-South linkages. We need to find out which institutions are ready to work. There's the African Educational Research Network, which is also another conference that will happen. But what happened was that about 3 or 4 institutions came together and they were just rotating the venues. If you look at this program, for instance, that every year it has been here, which means that we've not got other institutions to take it up. And I think that's what we have to do. But it's been wonderful taking part. I've been exposed to a lot of network. I've seen people show their love for sports. When I came initially, I never thought that sports was going to be part of the African Studies program. I thought that there were other things that were good. But initially, as time rolled on, we realized that sports was also part. And we got people who loved sports who wanted to research into those areas. So it's been a exciting moment. It's been a wonderful time. The African Studies program has opened our eyes to so many things. Before I came, we thought African Studies was like African Studies the way we knew about it in Africa. It's about dancing and theater and all that. Only for us to come and know that it's a interdisciplinary thing. From African Studies, I did my PhD in mass communication. So I have loved it. I have loved every part. That is why, even though back home, when you say you are going to attend conference on sports, okay, you are not a sports person. Your research is not in sports, So what are you going to do? Unless you show them the linkage between sports and media and sports and other things that you do. So I have loved every aspect of it. I am just praying that it doesn't die. I'm just praying that it doesn't win, the interest doesn't win, because from what I've seen here, I'm not so sure about it. But we need people like Papa and others to carry on the torch and let others know that we can still go on with it. You guys have done a wonderful job. I pray that we get a strength and we get people who we can bequeath this huge property to, so that they can also look at over it very well for us. So that our kids and those who are yet to come will so value sports in Africa and know that sports drive unity in Africa. For all African countries, the only thing that brings people together is sports. Nothing else. Ethnicity doesn't bring us together. Politics doesn't bring us together. The only one element that brings everybody in the community, in the country, in Africa together is sports. And that's why we have to look at it. That's why we have to invest in so much in terms of research. Because when Ghana was playing South Africa in South Africa 2010, everybody was rooting for Ghana to go to the semi-finals, even though we couldn't. That shows that it's a big thing. Unfortunately, African government have not invested so much into research into sports, and that's, I think, something that we all need to redirect our attention to.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. And on that note, Dr. Andy, I would like to thank you for the time that you have provided us to do this interview.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
No problem. Thank you.